Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is the end of June. Probably not for you. I posted somewhere in September or something. Oh, doesn't matter. Right now, it's exactly 9 weeks since I finished my first playthrough of Devil May Cry 5. And I recently finished editing the last few videos of said playthrough at the time of this recording. I wanted to talk about my experience about the consumable Devil Breaker arms in Devil May Cry 5. One starts off mission 1 with Overture, and I immediately fell in love with it. Battery comes out quickly, does at least 280 points of damage, that is on Devil Hunter difficulty. If an opponent is above or below you, Overture does an extra 70 damage, which honestly doesn't matter much at this point, but it's nice. Exploder does 80 points of damage when attaching an arm to an enemy, and then 650 damage when it explodes. Crazy stuff. Easily one of my favorite breakers right off the rip. Give it an S rank. In mission 2, one gets Gerbera. I was confused at first because it only does 50 points of damage, and I didn't realize one can counter or reflect attacks. I'm still not big on it when it comes to combat, but for movement, oh boy, best movement option in the game. Changing direction mid-air or traversing parts of the stage without even touching the ground is huge. Steam Ray does over 1000 points of damage if the enemy doesn't get out of range, while each of Petal Ray's 8 beams does 90 damage per hit. Quite the big numbers, but most of the time that's not too realistic in combat. Mission 3 introduces Punchline, which made a really good impression from the start. Jet Gadget possibly stuns an enemy for several seconds, while also doing 12 points of damage per hit. But the downside is, it broke for me not only firing it off, but also when it returned. The riding mechanic is fun, but felt really clunky, as I tried it in mission 13 and 15. Its break gauge, Buster Knuckle, does 910 damage on first impact, does another 390 when it keeps in contact with the enemy, and finally explodes for 200. That's 1500 points of damage in total. On paper, that breaker's busted, but it has 2 points of failure during normal use, and the break gauge destroys the breaker regardless if it hits or not. Quick side note, you can break away Punchline during Jet Gadget and it explodes for 200 damage, so double the amount of any other breakaway moves. Still, I would rank it really high since I like it for crowd control. Occupying one enemy while taking care of another in the meantime is pretty nice. The other breaker in mission 3 is Helter Skelter. Immediately I was disappointed by the low damage output, considering the long animation time of Drill Rig. Over 400 damage would be nothing to sneeze at, but for being vulnerable for 5 seconds is just too long. You have seen me use it air stalling in mission 7, but that's about the only use. Okay. To be fair, it also weakens and destroys shields, as seen in mission 15, but I'd rather jump around and hit the enemy from behind. Drill Master, on the other hand, comes out quick, does 500 points of damage, so the break gauge is fine. I thought about putting it in C tier, but honestly, I personally don't like it that much. One gets access to Tomboy from mission 6 onwards. It is a rare breaker, so I thought it might be super powerful, and I was afraid to break it. When I finally used it in mission 15, the disappointment was immeasurable. The activation, One Night Stand, does 50 damage while looking really cool, but the moveset is limited while only doing about 25% more damage than the regular Exceed. I haven't tried Rendezvous, but from what I read, it's the same as One Night Stand, but enemies cannot interrupt one's moves for the 15 seconds that it's active. At high style rank, one can use it to get increased damage on a single target, and it flows pretty well with the rest of Nero's combat, switching it on and off. I will give it a C for now. It works, but in my opinion it could be better. The other breaker from mission 6 is Buster Arm. First impression was really positive. In mission 7 it was clear to me I like it at least as much as Punchline. The downside? One cannot grab blocking enemies, not even with breakage, as seen in the following missions. But then I took note of the damage that Neo Buster does, which was between 600 and 1000 points of damage, depending on the enemy. So the normal attack does as much damage or more than the breakage of the other breakers. If Neo Buster's that crazy, then what about Super Buster? How does 6 to 12,000 damage sound like? Insane? Oh yes, because it is. It's not the quickest breaker, but definitely the strongest and really effective in almost all situations. Mission 7 gives access to Rawhide. The first one drops in mission 8. I didn't really use it as I had other breakers I was familiar with, so I stashed it until mission 15. My expectations weren't high, but the combat performance was really good. I expected to like Tomboy a lot before actually using it. And for Rawhide, it was exactly the opposite. I mean, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it has a really wide arc, hitting a lot of enemies. Sidewinder does between 130 to 200 damage to a single target, but standing in the crowd, it hits a lot more than one. Loop the Loop does 570 damage on the ground and 620 in the air, again to a single target. But using it correctly, it hits and damages so many more enemies around you. Not my first pick, but definitely a solid breaker, which honestly surprised me a lot. The last of the original breakers is Ragtime, also given access since mission 7. It is what I expected. It slows small single target without doing any damage. So to me, it feels like a worse Punchline. Don't get me wrong, it's not that bad. Slow Sphere comes out quick, gives you breathing room for about 2 to 3 seconds, and Time Stop is cool for about the 6 seconds that it's active. Damn, I sound so negative. I'd say it works. It works, it really does. But it could be better, honestly. Well, those are my thoughts about the Devil Breaker arms after my first playthrough. It's okay to have a different opinion than mine. If you want, you can leave your opinion in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video.
See you on the second playthrough.